What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions podcast, picks against the spread for week number 8. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta, and joining me, as always, for these picks against the spread is Wally, the Million Lira Man. What is up, Wally?
What's up, Alex?
Nothing, brother. You had a pretty good week last week, not gonna lie, and I had an awful week.
Yeah, I had actually a better week. On Sunday, I had a great day. I had two teams that pretty much screwed up both of my parlays, which would have been a really big payout. And it was the Ravens with the missed point after. Completely ruined my over. You know, they would have went into overtime and my over would have hit. That cost me my parlay. And then the what other game? The over in the Cowboys game.
But you said you were 12-2 overall last week, right?
Yeah, but those aren't the picks I gave you.
No, the picks you gave me, you were 2-1 last week, and we'll run over them real quick. You had Pats -3 over the Bears. That hit because Pats won 38-31. You had Eagles -5 over the Panthers. That didn't hit because the Panthers ended up beating the Eagles.
I actually changed that last minute after we had that recording.
Yeah.
I saw the line, and also it was like 40-mile-per-hour winds in Philly. So I took the under.
But the problem there is you weren't wrong. Philly was up 17-0. They had no business losing that game.
I like the under more. That's why I took the under. If I would have known some of the information that, came along on Sunday, I would have probably, switched my pick and went with the under instead of taking Philly.
Well, I'm going to give you your last pick, and then you told me about a crazy stat about the under. I'm going to let you talk about that once I give your last pick. You had Browns +4 against the Bucks. You hit that, much to the chagrin of me, because I had the opposite last week, and you told me I was going to be a loser, and you were right. Bucks ended up only winning that game 26-23, so your +4 holds up. My -4 does not. But you told me something pretty crazy about the under. What was the stat that you looked up about the under?
I think it was either, I'm going to say 10-4 or 11-3.
That's crazy.
The under hit.
That's out of 14 games last week.
Yeah, it was definitely like 10-4 or 11-3. It was very, very close.
And the crazy thing is the under really is the line that you're not supposed to bet. That's the one that's really not supposed to hit. It's usually if you're going over under, generally the rule of thumb is unless it's a ridiculously high score, you bet the over. That's the general rule of thumb. But this year just seems to be weird, especially in a league that promotes offense so much.
Yeah, it was very a lot of the games that I bet on Sunday was the under.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's something to keep in mind. That's food for thought. We're going to run through my awful picks because I was 0-4 this week. Well, just an update on your overall. You were 2-1 on the week. You're now 12-10-1, so you're having a pretty good time with the spreads. Me, on the other hand, we'll run through mine and how bad they are. I had the Chargers -6.5 over the Tennessee Titans, which should have hit because the only team that can't score touchdowns in the NFL, the Titans, found a way to score a touchdown in the last second against the Chargers, and the Chargers only ended up winning 20-19 over in London. That pissed me off. Then, obviously, Tampa Bay only won by 3 against Cleveland, so you ended up taking that one. I took the loss. I had Atlanta -4 against the Giants, which should have been a shoo-in, but I should know that Atlanta gives up garbage time points. They were up 20-6. They only ended up winning 23-20. So thanks, Atlanta, for nothing. And lastly, I picked my Jets +3.5 against your best advice, saying it was going to be a blowout. You were right. 37-17, Minnesota trounced the Jets because the Jets could not convert a third down for their life.
That was an easy pick.
Well, I was 0-4 on the week. I am now 7-22 on the year. So if you're listening to this,
you're the opposite.
Seriously, who are you going to go with? Whose bets are you going to say, yeah, I'll take those bets?
Man.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. All right, so let's
the Titans and the Chargers game. Once I saw that Melvin Gordon was out,
But I like what is it, Eckler? I like him. He's a good back, Eckler.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't know. That game just pissed me off because the Titans had no business scoring, and then they went for two-point conversions, didn't convert either of them, which just goes to show how inept they are, and the fact that they shouldn't have scored that touchdown to begin with.
Yeah,
But I digress, Wally. My anger will subside. So we're gonna go on to this week. As we always do again, we'll talk about our three big games, which basically are advice to any of our degenerate gamblers out there. We'll go over our locks. I'll give you my Jets pick, and I'll probably be wrong about all mine, and Wally will be right about most of his. So go with Wally. So big games. First big game that I got, Green Bay at the Rams. Rams are minus 9.5 at home. Wally, what's your feel on that game?
I mean, I gotta go with my boy Aaron Rodgers, man. He's getting 9.5. I mean, you buy that up to 10. You buy a full point 10.5. That's two possessions. I don't know, man. You can't count out Aaron Rodgers.
Even with the struggles of the team, because it was a ridiculous stat that through the first three quarters, like over this past season, Green Bay is like minus like I don't even know, it's like minus like 40 something. And then in the last quarter, they're like plus 49. And it's all because of Aaron Rodgers.
Dude, I just
How long can that last, especially against a really good Rams defense?
I don't know. I think people are getting a little crazy with the Rams, dude.
I like them. I'm not going to go over the top because, again,
If it was a 7-point game,
12 hits, I don't care.
if it
Honestly,
was plus 7, I would be like, okay, that sounds a little reasonable. But 10 points, man, that's a lot.
10 points is a lot. And for that reason, I definitely avoid this game. Basically, off the play of Green Bay, I wouldn't bet this game because I agree with your points. Giving Aaron Rodgers 10 points is insane. It's like giving Tom Brady, Drew Brees, all these great quarterbacks that we know of. You don't give them
And,
those points; they cover
I
those.
mean, I see why they're doing it. They got the best defense. They're the best team in football right now. Like,
And they're home, and they're for
yeah.
some reason they have home field advantage, and the Chargers don't. No one comes out for Chargers games in LA, and it's a travesty. But they do show up for the Rams. I don't know. I would avoid the hell out of this game. If you have to pick it, I agree with you. You go with Green Bay. You go with Aaron Rodgers.
No, I mean, that's what I will not. I'm not going to be betting this game at all because
You say that now. Watch the line. The line will drop to -8, and Wally's like, by that point, bet this game.
it also depends on the. I kind of like the under in this game.
What's
But
the over under? What's the points right now?
it is 56.5.
Yeah, I could definitely see. I could see if it's gonna go anyway, it's either gonna be a close game that Green Bay wins, or the Rams are just gonna blow them out. And if
Mhm.
it's a blowout, I don't see them getting to that number.
I think it is
If it's a close game, I think it would be a muck it out game. So I think the under is a pretty good bet there. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah,
I
it
wouldn't
is.
bet that
It's
game.
very very tough. Very
I
tough
wouldn't
game.
bet that game. We
Packers
talked
don't-
about the
Packers
next
aren't that
game.
great on the road either.
Yeah, we talked about the next game. It's a pretty disrespectful one. New Orleans at Minnesota. It is a pick 'em currently.
Yeah.
A New Orleans team that doesn't play well in cold weather. Sean Payton, who calls a completely different game in cold weather. Drew Brees, who can't hold the ball in cold weather, is getting a pick 'em in Minnesota, who is great in cold weather. I don't know about this one. I think I would. I'm not going to bet this one because I hate pick'ems. But if you were, I'd go Minnesota.
I would go Minnesota as well.
Hey, I'm learning something. Look at that.
I would definitely take Minnesota here.
Yeah, there's so many factors.
They're playing unbelievable football too. They're playing very well.
I mean, you can't count the Jets last week because they couldn't convert anything. So I don't count that game.
Didn't the Vikings beat the Saints twice last year?
I think did they play them twice? They played them in.
Played them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they did beat them twice last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but last year that was a different team. Team. So they're Minnesota's better this year.
Who was the starter last year?
Case Keenum.
Are you sure?
Yeah, Case came up and he started for them.
In the playoffs?
No, he was there at the end of the year too.
Okay. Bradford started the season though.
Bradford started the season. Bradford did Bradford things, and he ended up getting hurt. And Case Keenum came in and was a monster. That's the only reason why Case Keenum has a starting job in the NFL right now.
I want to see something. Saints Vikings last year, 2017.
Was it against the Saints that Stephon Diggs had that ridiculous catch on the sideline? That should have been they should have made a play on and they didn't
Yeah,
and it
look at
ended up
that. Week one. Week
yeah.
one last year. 29-19. Minnesota Vikings beat the Saints.
Yeah, if this was in New Orleans and this was under the dome, then it's tough to bet against the Saints. But since it's outside, the weather's getting cold. Drew Brees is typically not a good cold weather player. Sean Payton doesn't call the same aggressive game out in the cold. You got to go with Minnesota, especially if it's a pick 'em. If you're going to bet this game, there's only one way to bet.
I mean, the Saints, I'm just going by stats. The Saints lost twice last year to Minnesota at Minnesota.
Yeah, so there you go.
By two different quarterbacks.
Exactly. And this one is arguably better than both.
Yeah.
So,
I would 100% take the Vikings here.
yeah, actually, this is actually a pretty safe game to bet. If you're going to bet Minnesota, you'd probably win money on it.
Yeah, I'll take Minnesota on that.
All right, and the final game is a game that I actually bet, but we're not going to go into my bets yet. We'll talk about this game. And actually, you know what? Screw it. We'll go into my bets, and so we're going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah, why don't you just start with that and then do your bets?
Yeah. So we have but the line is Baltimore -2 going to Carolina. I think this is another disrespectful line. Carolina is 4-2. Baltimore's 4-2. They both have found ways to win, but let's be honest, Carolina has the best player from both teams starting at quarterback for them, Cam Newton. And he just figures out way to win. And if you're going to tell me you're giving Cam Newton +2, I think Carolina is going to win this game outright anyway. So I like Carolina +2, and that's one of my locks. I say you take Carolina at home. Their fans are fantastic at home. And I like Cam Newton. He's just finding ways to get it done this year.
Just buy the extra point to 3.
Yeah. Then again, I don't do the buying the points like Wally does, but I agree if I would buy that point to 3. And exactly, you save yourself. If it's a push, you don't lose your money.
It'll probably cost you like $10 per $100 bet, you know?
Yeah.
You know, if it's like, let's say -2 is like -110 and +2 is -110, then +3 is like -125 or 130. Just take it, man. Because you know what? The worst thing is to lose a bet by, because you didn't buy the hook.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a few of those already on my ledger right there because I'm not buying the hook on mine, and I'm losing a lot that way. So I agree. If you are going to do it, you buy that point. I'm going straight up with the +2 for my purposes, but if you're betting out there, definitely buy that point. My next lock, I have Cleveland at Pittsburgh -8. I think that offense is starting to get going. They're really getting comfortable with Connor in the backfield. Antonio Brown is starting to become his normal self a little bit. He made a great play at the end of the game last week. I just think that they're starting to come around. Le'Veon Bell should show up at some point soon, if not this week, next week. But regardless, I think that Cleveland is still trying to figure out who the hell they are. Baker Mayfield they're just telling him to throw the ball around the field, make mistakes, play the game. And in Pittsburgh, in the cold weather, I just like Pittsburgh. I think -8's a good score for them. I think they'll win this game by 2 scores.
I agree with you, actually.
I feel good about my picks right now.
I do. I like the Steelers a lot. I mean, it's the Browns, man. I'm not. It's the Browns. That's all you got to say.
It's the Browns. They have a good defense. I'm not discounting their defense. And again, I just think they're telling Baker to fling it. I don't think they care if he throws interceptions. They don't care. They just want – he's an accurate guy. They just want him to get NFL snaps, and they want him to get an NFL feel. And if that comes with 10 touchdowns and 17 interceptions, it's a good learning curve for him because they know they're going to stick with it the next 5 years.
I think Baker Mayfield is going to be a great quarterback. I think he's going to be a really good one.
Yeah. And
he already is, but I think he's just going to get even better as more time he has in the league.
Again, I agree. I think the only thing that could slow Baker Mayfield down is injuries. He's a little undersized. He's small. He does like to move. So the only thing that I think that could slow Baker down is if he starts having concussion issues or these minor little nagging injuries that keep him out here or there games. But overall, talent-wise, I like what I see out of Baker. He was my favorite quarterback in this draft. I'm happy with Sam Darnold as a Jets fan, but I love Baker. So you're not going to get arguments from me on Baker.
What's your last game?
My last game, I'm pulling a Wally here, even though Wally actually doesn't have this one. But I'm taking New England minus 14 going into Buffalo. And I know it's super high. And
I don't hate it.
as a gambling man, you
I
shouldn't.
hate it, but I just feel like that's too many points, man.
It's a
I,
lot of points, but you have to look. For me, I look at the options that Buffalo has, and it's start Derek Anderson or Nathan Peterman. So it's literally call Wally, call me, put us in pads, and tell us to go throw the football. Like it's really that much. They can't move the ball. All you have to do is key in on LaShawn McCoy, who is a great player, but you key in on him. That's all you have to do, and there you go. You stop them. You put them 3 and out every single time, and New England is just going to go insane. That defense isn't great at all either. They're going to be exhausted by midway through the second quarter. Tom Brady's going to pick them apart.
yeah, but Sony Michel's probably he's definitely not going to be playing this week.
Yeah, but you still have other good players there.
Gronk is
I'm not.
probably going to be out too.
I'm really not worried about New England. They are literally next man up, and as long as Tom Brady is healthy and playing, they can score 40 points every single week. It doesn't matter.
Like I said, if it was like maybe like a 10-point game, it would be different. But 14 points, that's a lot, man. 2 touchdowns.
I don't know. I might take New England if it was a minus like 30 spread. I'm not going to lie. Against the Bills right now, they're vulnerable. And it's not like weather is a factor. New England plays in cold weather too.
The way I look at it is they played the Bears. It was a pretty good game. It wasn't terrible. Obviously, the Patriots were a better team. And that Hail Mary at the end, Bears almost caught it and scored the touchdown. That was crazy. But now the Patriots are next week. They're playing the Packers. Man, they got a tough schedule coming up.
They do, but the Bears are a much, much, much better team than the Buffalo Bills. Mitch Trubisky is coming into his own. They have a legitimate running back in Howard. They have some nice wide receivers.
Well, that's why I'm worried about that. Is because they had a tough game. They had a pretty good game, and now they got the Bills. They might take it easy. They might not go out there and go buck and go crazy.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm also looking at I don't think you also need the offense to score all the points. A pick six is there against this Bills team once a week, at least. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I like it as a lock. Again, this was another week, you'll probably agree, where Vegas is definitely a little confused about NFL football. They're looking at these spreads and they're like, I don't know, man. Like, we're just going to gauge the better team and kind of throw a number out there because some of them are all over the place.
Yeah, like the 4.5. That's just weird, man. It's just like a weird number to have. And
yeah, so we'll go. Speaking of 4.5, we'll go over your picks. Who is your first pick?
My first pick was the Texans, and that's tomorrow night against the Dolphins.
Yeah, so you have the Texans. It's sitting at minus 7.5. You're buying it down to 6.5, right?
Yes.
What do you like about the Texans over the Dolphins? The Dolphins are floundering and coming back down.
They got nobody to throw to. Their top wide receivers are out, and they got Brock Osweiler. I mean, he's not terrible, but it's just I just don't like them right now. I don't think they're going to beat the Texans.
And you look at it, Deshaun Watson is starting to come back into his own. He has almost 2,000 yards. He's 10 touchdowns. He should have around 25 touchdowns this year. He's finding Hopkins. Hopkins is over 700 yards.
They're a hot couple right now.
Yeah. They're playing good football. So I like that pick a lot. I think that, especially at home, it's a good number for them. All right, who's next pick for you?
They won 3 by a total of just 9 points.
Who, the Texans?
Yeah.
But you know what, though? The Dolphins team is vulnerable, and I feel like ever since they played the Jets and those 2 pass rushers went crazy, they really haven't done as much. The sacks haven't been there. So, I don't know. I'm with you with the Texans. I like this pick. I think the Texans are going to blow their doors off.
I agree.
So what you got next?
The next game I have is the Bengals and the Bucks.
And you have the line is sitting at minus 4.5. You're gonna buy a 1.5 and get it down to minus 3 because, like you said, that 4.5 is weird.
Yeah, I would just watch it because I think it'll drop down to like 4 or 3.5.
Probably by the time game day rolls around, and we don't know about injuries and actives, things like that. That always plays a factor last second.
Yeah.
Now, it's a little weird though, because both of these teams are high octave, high power offenses, and Jameis Winston seems to have it clicking. So does Andy Dalton. I look at this game, and I feel like the Buccaneers are the more desperate team. So it's a little nerving for me to pick against them. What is driving you to pick the Bengals at home?
I'll tell you because the Bucks play in Florida. Again, I'm the way I'm thinking is like a gambler. I'm a degenerate gambler. So the way I'm thinking is, well, guess what? The Bucks play in Florida. It's warm in Florida. This game's in Cincy. It's going to be freezing cold in Cincy. He's not going to be able to play as well. Cincinnati's the pick.
I tend to agree with that, and it is tough. It's like when West Coast teams go to the East, when hot weather teams go to the
Yeah.
cold, it does have a factor. It really does. And
When people travel to Denver, the altitude, you hear it every single time. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, the altitude."
yeah, and I agree. I think it's a weird thing in the NFL because I hate domes. I'm not gonna lie, I hate them. I think that they either need to say everyone plays in a dome or everyone plays outdoors. Because I think sitting there and putting certain teams in this perfect little 70 something degree bubble all the time with their nice astroturf, like that's not real life. That's not football. Football is meant to be played outside and dealt with the elements. I can't stand it. And
I don't think Cincinnati's as bad as they looked against the Chiefs.
I think Cincinnati's a team still trying to find themselves. I think that
I
they
just don't think
are
they're as bad as I don't think they're as bad as they looked. I mean, they played the Chiefs, man. Chiefs are a really good team.
they are. I don't think they're as bad as they look, but then when they're on their highs, I don't think they're as good as they look either. I think they're kind of somewhere in between that just can play really well sometimes or play, pretty damn bad at times. So who do you have last?
I have the Jets against the Bears.
And I see you're picking against my Jets.
Hold on. Was that the pick?
Yeah. You have Jets at Bears. Bears were sitting at -7.5, and you bought it to 6.5.
Yeah, I just think the Jets are doo doo. I do. I just think they're doo doo. And the Bears played a very good game against the Patriots. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very one-sided game.
Yeah,
I'm
I
surprised the spread's not even, a little bit higher. I'm surprised that it's not like -7.5.
I I actually agree with you. This brings us to my Jets pick. And last week I said, don't pick against your own team. Man, forget that. I agree with you. I'm actually taking Bears -7.5 against my Jets. For a lot of things you said, the Jets aren't good right now, and they're very, very injured, and that doesn't help. Terrell Pryor, they cut him because of his injury. They said they'll resign him when he's healthy, but that's a receiver out. Quincy Enum was hurt. Um, Bilal Powell just went out. So that's three of the main targets on offense out. Defensively, our secondary is depleted. I agree with you. I take Bears -7.5 against the Jets.
The Jets got annihilated by the Vikings.
It was bad because in the beginning of the game, neither team could convert a third down, and it was close. And then Adam Thielen converts like a third down because he does things, and Adam Thielen's an unbelievable wide receiver. And from there, the Jets couldn't stop him, and the steamroll just happened. The Jets are a struggling team. They're injured, and their roster isn't super deep. On top of that, it's just good experience with Sam Darnold this year.
Listen to this stat. You know how we were talking about you were talking about turf and domes and stuff.
Yeah,
The Jets are 0-4 against the spread. I'm sorry, 0-4-1 against their spread in the last 5 games on grass.
and this game is played at
Um,
Soldier Field
on
on some of
grass.
the hardest grass you'll find. So
Yeah,
it's so it's 0-4-1, you said?
yeah, and their last 5 on grass.
Yeah, and I could definitely see them making that 0-5-1.
Yeah, no, I like the Bears here, man. Trubisky is I think, especially with the Jets secondary just being what they are.
They're just depleted. There's no one there. Jamal Adams is the only starter, I think, right now. That's it. That's tough. Even their backup safety went down. So the
Yeah,
Jets are
I
in
think
a bad
this
place.
is gonna go buck on them. I think it's going to be another blowout.
He does. And I see Trubisky's ceiling kind of being like Kirk Cousins. Really, really, really good. He's never going to be great, but Kirk Cousins could definitely win you games on his own with his arm. He's that guy. He's a talented player, and I think Trubisky's right there.
Yeah, and I think the Bears defense is pretty good too.
Yeah, it's underrated. The Bears defense is underrated, and they're going to be getting after Sam Darnold all game. Even though the Jets offensive line is playing better, now without Bilal Powell, Isaiah Crowell is still banged up. We're going to see Trenton Cannon playing the game at running back. They just signed Rashard Matthews, who was cut from the Titans. They're a mess. So, Bears it is. Any tips for any extra betting tips that you have? You always like to give your tips before we round out this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing terrible on Twitter lately as far as my hockey picks, and I'm just not getting a read on it right now. But take a look out for some of over and under picks that I'm going to have going out on Sunday, because I feel like Vegas hasn't figured it out yet with the over under.
And they will, because they don't like losing money.
Yeah, because the under, like I said, it was an insane amount of games went under.
All right. So, Wally, fun as always. Really happy to have you come back on again for week 8. Sports Opinions Podcast, Picks Against the Spread for NFL Football Week 8. I'm your host, Alex Cuesta. Find me Twitter and Instagram, _Cuesta30. Sports Opinions on Twitter, @SportsOpinion30. Instagram, Sports Opinions 30. Visit the Facebook page. Listen on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music. Wally the Million Lira Man. Where can they find you on Twitter, Wall?
@Million Lira Man.
And again, look out for all the picks that he gives. And good luck to everyone betting this week. Happy betting. And you know what? Go Jets. So long, everyone.